Welcome to Accounting High.
Previously on Social Studies at Accounting High.
I think it's really, really good for the human psyche to put out something you're really proud of, and then in your YouTube analytics, you can pull up the graph of who's watching and when everybody checks out. You can see people falling off throughout the entire video. A normal YouTube retention rate on like a run-of-the-mill average YouTube video, you normally have like 20% of people watching at the end of the video. So you worked really hard on this thing. You think that everything that you said is really important. Well, then why is everybody checking out? So it's honestly, it's a really good thing for the human psyche, I think, because we all assign a much higher level of importance to the things that we say and think and all of that than other people do. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how important you think it is if nobody else will listen. It programs you to frame things in a way where like people will actually pay attention, because if nobody clicks the video to begin with, or if they click off after 20 seconds because your intro was just super boring, then it's like you didn't even need to bother making it in the first place.
Grow marketing. It's Thursday. We gon' advertise and chat on Thursday. At Accounting High and Branding Talk is Thursday. And we gon' help you social post so you're in first place. It's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you into social studies, it's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you into social studies. Welcome back, Accounting High. Now it's time for social studies. We'll teach you new creative ways to market old product. Move beyond basics with graph and stats. Some stud you love. Position like Laura Lynn and you learn it's not all luck. Oh wait, now it all changed. SEO down, IG up. ICX, Meta, TikTok, hey LinkedIn, Roman V up. If you watch how they post, you'll see it's all authentic and genuine. Grow a following and don't get held back by perfection. Be intentional online, create content. Now that's hot. Strategy is key with social media and pods. Start slow, pick up platform, stick to it and go post. Make a plan to engage with client watering holes. Create a focus brand, be a lead online. It's a digital world with the best ROI. Now create your own ideal client persona. Let's go. Keyword Accounting High and get ready to blow. It's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you into social studies, it's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you into social studies. Follow this show, stay in the know. Thought lead online through networking. Like, share, repost, subscribe, YouTube, comment, engage, create, find your way.
Introducing the star of our show,
Jason Staats and Scott Scarano.
We're gonna have a problem here.
You have a podcast now too. You have a better mic. You've evolved as in the audio realm as we progress these episodes here.
Yeah.
Tell me about this experience of doing a podcast.
I didn't know anything about podcasting, so that's why I started one, because I think that's how you learn. It was really interesting. I was in I think it was some sort of Gusto thing. I was on a call with like a Gusto marketing people with a bunch of other firm leaders, and there was probably 8 people there, and they went around the table and they said, how do each of you learn and consume content right now? Went around the circle. Podcast. They came to me. I was like, video. Kept going. Podcast. I'm like, well, what? Oh my gosh. What does this all mean? So there was an element of like, I just got to learn how to do this. Like the world's big enough to where like, I think you can find your audience on any platform because there's just so many people out there. But I also listen to a ton of podcasts. So I kicked it off to like, just kind of like learn how podcasting works. I also kicked it off to have a thing that was outside the accounting space too. And like not explicitly be for accountants, but I just created around like, what's my interest when I'm not doing accounting firm stuff? What's the thing that I enjoy? And I really enjoy all things automation. So kick that off. It's a good excuse to spend more time with Chad Davis too, a buddy of mine that runs a firm in Canada, and just learn about podcasting and what that looks like, and learn more about automation too. Like just going through the process of making that content, I've learned so much more about the subject itself. But then just like, it's another way for me to create. So like it's evolved in a bunch of different forms in the 20 to 30 episodes that we've done. So it's just kind of another outlet. You said earlier, like you're doing the audio, but not the video thing yet. It's actually really refreshing to just do the audio and only have to worry about like that one dimension of it. It's a totally different challenge though, because I can lean on a lot of things and mannerisms and all that stuff in video that you can't do in just audio. So like, it's a totally different storytelling challenge. So the reason I started it was like just to make myself a more well-rounded like person and how I can create stuff and engage with people.
I'm very grateful that you have done that, because I've leveled up my game, and it's inspired me listening to y'all's intros and everything. That's kind of how I finally decided I was going to change my intro. I put the school kids in the background and stuff, and all that. Like in this process, I'm kind of learning from what Paul's doing and what you guys are doing. Yeah. And I'm like trying to do that in my own way. So it's very inspirational. It's like in the past you would have thought, oh yeah, well, he's just copying what they're doing, but it's not. Like everybody does things in their own way. You can kind of grab from all these different things. And I'm sure you got a lot of inspiration on yours from the podcast you listen to. Yeah. And you guys are doing it your own way. And you're 100,000% unique and in the way that you're doing it and the way that you come across. But it's also familiar in a lot of ways too. Like when I'm listening, it's like good comedy and routines, and it feels very natural. Like the way you guys are doing it, even from the beginning too. Like you guys are good friends too, so it's like you're laughing about stuff, and it just seems like good conversation. So, to kind of bring everything you've learned in the video process to the audio world and spice it up and enhance it in so many ways too is fun. Yeah. Right? Like,
yeah, I think that's why I'm loving it and this is kind of the format we've settled on. Like if you've seen my videos, I really enjoy like absurd things, and that's almost even more possible in a podcast because like it doesn't have to work visually. It just has to work like over audio. So like it's taken a bunch of forms, and now what we've landed on is, so now we've almost finished recording season 2. So we've chunked it out into seasons, and season 2 is like the format we've landed on. And something I've always loved in like movies and fictions and just storytelling in general is world building. So like I love like Lord of the Rings came out when I was in middle school. And the reason that blew my mind, it was so cool, was it's just different universe. And so how all those things work together and how the world itself has developed is really cool. And like the stuff I read now, like that's what I most enjoy is like the world building, like creating that universe. And so now it's like this thing has gone from basic info on how to automate knowledge work stuff to now like this like fictional place that's being developed with each episode. And you have these characters coming in now, and we've got like professional voice actors coming in and doing this stuff. And it's now this like scripted thing with its own kind of story arcs while still teaching you about automation and how to do different stuff, which like to me, like our kind of guiding light is like, is my wife going to listen to this from beginning to end? Who generally like wouldn't be the type of person that would get into automation stuff. And she loves it. It's super entertaining. Like, and she like pulls a few things out of it, each week. So that's what we're kind of trying to balance is like, I super enjoy the comedy writing. I already do a lot of that, but like the world building while also like teaching you something useful.
So we have that in common. Our wives listen to our podcast, but I feel like that's part of my guiding light because she'll give it to me straight too. Like if something's any good or not, she tells me.
Or like, where did you stop listening? Like that's the really valuable thing, because we've struggled with what level of depth do you go into on automation stuff, because it doesn't lend itself that well to an audio medium. It's easier on video because you can show them how to do this thing. So it's got to stay pretty high level. So like at what point did we get too into the weeds where we need to pull back and talk more just about the decision-making framework without like getting way into the meat of it?
The other world that's my world is the Game of Thrones world. It blows my mind, but that's the part of the storytelling. And we kind of had a conversation about this at ZeroCon. Like, I was talking about a TV show, but in the same way, it's all about the characters too, and developing the characters in any form of content or media or story, you have to care about the characters, because there's always going to be a character that you see as you, or the one that you identify with most, and everybody's different. So for everybody to be represented in a way, like there's a lot of great shows and stories and worlds that are built, but they're built around the characters, and sometimes the world is the character too.
Yeah.
So I think that in your show, the Automation Town is a character in that town,
It is, yeah.
and you have to develop that character. You have to develop that set, the scene. And you guys have already been doing it. You've been camping for a while now, at least what I've been listening to, and that's what I'm following. Like, I try to listen to the rest of it too, but it's just like, something else will come up, or my mind will start thinking about something else. But it's all about the story too. Like, and that's what draws people in, and that's what keeps them going.
Yeah, you got to think about how that world building will enhance the purpose of whatever that thing is. So, in our case, we would listen back to episodes, and they were useful, but our favorite bits were the storytelling. So like the second half of season 2, like episode 5 through 10 or so, is really heavy into storytelling. So the meat of the episode where we're talking through a technical thing, it's happening when we're like stuck in a machine room and there's this thing going on, and like it's in the context of a story. So all of the learning now is happening like in the context of some other story thing that's
I've always been fascinated with the fact that something could be so fake and entertaining, but be more real than anything else, than any of the reality TV that's out there or anything. You can have something that it's in a fantasy world, but yet it feels more real than anything else on TV. And that's kind of what I want this to be, an entertainment world that I'm trying to create within the accounting world, but also educational that people can learn from. And I think you guys are doing that. Like that's the main goal, was to teach people and to be a better, broadcast of what's out there, what's available out there. And I think, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, because there isn't anything out there right now. Blake's doing something very similar, like with Earmark, and there's others, but there's new ways of learning. Now we can learn from the people that are actually doing it, not from the top down of the people that are teaching the 6-year-old method.
Like Chad and I's thought on automation and knowledge work in general is the people that need help and need to engage with this stuff aren't no code enthusiasts. Like they're not the people that already think like devs. It's the people who don't identify as those types of people, like the people who just are too busy, because the stuff's already at a point where it's like, it's not hard to set up. Like it's just a matter of taking 30 minutes to like stumble through that thing and figure it out. So for us, the motivation is accessibility. We need to make this we need to make this go down as easy as possible, because that's going to pull more people into it, not just the real like nerd enthusiast types of people. But yeah, I mean the whole concept of the easier you can make it go down. I mean, comedians read us the news now. I mean, you look at from John Oliver to like that's how like the majority of
that's how I get my news. That's the only way I get my news. Yeah.
And they'll say like, don't rely on us to read you the news, but that's how people engage with it, because it's the most entertaining way to do it. So yeah, it's a question of like, how do you align your message and the purpose of that thing with people, and I guess the way where it's going to go down the easiest.
Well, it's the sense of safety too, in the viewer, the listener, is they feel safe listening to it, because it is in a way for entertainment, and they don't feel judged, or they don't feel as much pressure to do something. It's fun. That's part of like my purpose, at least when I figured that out this year, was I want to I don't want to be serious. Like I've never been serious in my whole life. I've always tried to have fun with everything, or just put light spin on something that's supposed to be serious, put some comedy on it, put something that's fun in there. So, how do I do that in my life? Well, that's kind of like, I realize that's kind of what I'm already trying to do. It's just a matter of framing it and branding it the right way and building it the right way with the right purpose, and it's never money with these things. The people that build the greatest things, they're not doing it for monetary gain.
Yep.
They're doing it for impact and to share what they know.
Yeah, it's kind of like the goals thing. Like, you go out and, with a plan of building like this $1 million business or something like that. Like you're gonna cruise past all the stuff that matters, which is how do you make this compelling for people? How do you like connect with people and all that? Like that's, I think you focus on the wrong things, you're gonna lose perspective of that. But it's like story building, humor, stuff like that. Like you've got all of these tools. Really interesting thing with podcasting is like designing that audio landscape. These are all tools to like make that podcast have a different vibe. School is an extremely like emotionally raw thing for most people. So like people associate high school with like a really like impactful sort of thing. So like, what are the sounds that you associate with that and the words? Like, like the bell going off between classes and like the shuffling of like people going from class to class and like, you 200 level stuff versus 400 level stuff. Like school is a very like emotionally charged thing for most people. And that could be an interesting thing to get people to open up.
You just gave me a lot of ideas though. Like the shuffling between segments is, that's another important point too, because Blake hates this idea of accounting high. And I realized the whole drive behind that is because he hated high school. He had a horrible high school experience. And it took me a little while for him to, finally, that was the reason why he doesn't like it. Because most everybody, they like this idea. They think it's fun, but then I realized too, like that emotional works both ways. For somebody that had a terrible high school experience, they're already going to disengage, and not want to be part of this. And I've heard people say, oh, I really prefer the idea of accounting you better. And I always kind of took that stuff for face value, but you got to look at it like, maybe one is more like foundational, more fun. And the other one is, you get to that higher level too, more serious, right?
More technical. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an evolution. Like, I don't really know. Like the Suns it worked for a time period. That's the album, right? And then the next album is Accounting High, or the next album is Accounting You. Like there's all mixtapes for me now. I'm relating it to the rap thing. And that's part of the entertainment too. And again, like a lot of that trailer that I've just previously on, like a lot of my inspiration came from a lot of the that you said, or at least validation, inspiration and validation too. Like when you say you got to be comfortable putting some bad out and all of that, like that's kind of how I've been looking at this, because nobody's doing this. I mean, Drew did it. Drew Carrick did it, like, a few of those, and he did his own raps. But otherwise, I see maybe 2 guys on LinkedIn. One guy doesn't even really do it anymore, and one kind of does. Nobody really does this. So, why not? Like, I felt like it's obvious to me. You said, like, some of your ideas are so obvious, like shooting fish in a barrel, and nobody's doing it. So you have to do it. You almost feel compelled. Like this is something that you feel like you're calling, right? Like you've got to do these videos because nobody else is doing it. And it's such a good idea. Like now I'm trying to do that with the raps. It's my passion though, is music. Music has always been my life. And so the podcast opened that door for me.
Yeah.
Because I started editing audio, and then I started getting better mics, and then I started learning more about that process.
Yeah, you got to make doing new stuff a habit, because what's a bigger deal than that thing you're super focused on now is that thing that's going to be on the other side of it that you don't know about yet. So you may think you enjoy rap and music and stuff like that, but maybe doing that is what opens the door to finding 10 other people that want to do that stuff and, want a label or something like that. Like that's the cool thing, is always the thing you can't see yet. And until you make change and doing new things a habit, rather than the destination, like you're never going to see what's on the other side of stuff. Like I got to shoot a commercial for Zapier when we're done here. I never would have thought I'd be like shooting like commercials for big companies when I first recorded a 2-minute loom about an accounting software thing. Like when I did that, I was just like trying not to look super sweaty and was embarrassed about like the dumpy stuff that was in the background. Like I wasn't thinking about the 10 things that were next down the road. Right. So yeah, it's kind of like,
and that's why goals are dangerous too.
Yeah.
Because you could set the wrong goal. You know which direction you're going in. They always say this about business and growing your firm and anything else. Like you have that loose definition, like destination where you're going. Let's say for me, like you're going to the West Coast, but you don't know where on the West Coast. You don't know the final destination. You just know which direction you're marching toward, or you're driving toward. That's that's super important too in all of this. And you just said that, and it's like I just realized that the last 3 days I've talked to 3 different people that do want to do like some form of rap collaboration because they've been wanting to do this, and they said they were inspired by what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to help them, like anything I can do to help them, because I don't know that much. I'm still learning. It's still very relatively early, really early, and I'm still pretty bad at it. But it's like, you know, it's part of that is I know that I've done a 5th song that's actually really good, but I still got to finally release the first 4.
Yep.
And I only released that one that I put on yours.
Yeah. So the analogy is like, you've made that first Loom video that I made, right?
Yeah.
So how big was my net? Like, how many people was I capturing with that audience at that time with that one stupid little video? As opposed to now, like, you know, the last video I did got like 1,000 views in like the first 4 days, and like it did really, really well. And it's like all these people are watching this thing, and it's really bizarre, but like you're meeting new people along the way, and that's opening new doors. So it's like it's just about the habit of doing the new stuff. Like the more you dwell on like my vlog that's coming out this Sunday, like the more I dwell on that and how imperfect that is, the more it's going to keep me from doing it, rather than just focusing on the habit of like, I'm going to release a rap every 2 weeks or every month or something like that. Like that's what's going to get you there. And then like, that's when those next things like will kind of present themselves to you. So when we've talked about raps before, like your first one you did, like I was shocked at how long and developed it was. So like that thing had been percolating for a long time. But if the tripping point is publishing, then in my mind, the cure for that is like publishing 8 bars on TikTok every week or something like that. Like it's not making this big perfect thing, right? It's like it's the exercise of like the publishing itself, like that. It's not even the creation of, like, those are 2 totally different things, right? And how you package it and all that. Yeah, like, and I get teased a lot, my wife and the people I work with, like that I'm just a robot, but like I try to make it as like nuts and bolts as I can. And so like on the whole, like publishing every week, I'm like, okay, if I got to write 7 lines every single week, I'm going to have 7 by the end of the week. Great. I'll publish that, or some other combination of 7 or something like that. So I don't know. I just try to be really mechanical about the stuff that I do. What are the systems you can build for yourself every day that will get you to be the person that you want to be? Like, you are designing your future you. So I talk with my team about this a lot. Like, who do you want to be in 12 months? None of the tasks that you're doing today should be the tasks that you're doing 12 months from now. So think backwards. So like look ahead to who you want that person to be, and now think backwards. Like, what are the things you need to do every day to get to that version of you that you want to be? And that might change 5 times between now and then. But tomorrow, you're going to do all of the daily things that will like take you a little tiny step down that path, right? So like, I just try to get real nuts and bolts, concrete, like think small, like never thinking too far ahead. I struggle with like staying in my lane of what I know really well, and like just like hammering on that one thing. Like, I think if you think of all the people who are the best at what they do, they're super, super good at that specific thing, and they just hammer the heck out of it. Like, that's how you get phenomenal at a single thing, I feel like. So like
that was one of the things I was going to bring up today too. I'm glad you did, is like focusing on one thing, because I do feel like it's hard for people like us in a way, because we have these great ideas to do these other things and feel like, in a way, I feel like I could do it. Like, if I work hard at this, I can do that. But then all of a sudden I didn't even work hard enough at the last thing that I was doing. You know, you had the launch, and then you learned a lot from that, turned that into Realize, and you've got your Twitter, and then you elevated to YouTube, and eventually that's going to turn into something else, but they all are part of that same thing too. So I think, you know, you do have that focus, but you can only grow one thing at a time. And when I was talking about numbers, it's like, you know, you only have that one, and I talked about this on the first Stats Next, second episode. But like, you know, you can only grow one thing at a time. You can't grow your top line on your firm and grow your firm to be this greatest thing when you're trying to grow an audience too. Like, I realized that when I'm trying to grow a podcast audience, I can't grow 2 things at once effectively. Some people might be able to. I can't. You got to focus on one thing at a time, I think.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, and the more like those things are taking you in the same direction, the better. So like for me, like I do a weekly newsletter because that's another way of like finding people who are similar to me and excited about tech for accountants and stuff like that. And so like that is like pushing me in the same direction as the videos I do around the same content and that sort of thing. So I have to be really careful to like try to align things so that they're pushing, it in a direction, because yeah, to your point, if you do too many things, then you're not going to be great at any of those.
I found it very hard to say no once opportunities present themselves. And I have a hard time saying no to myself, saying no to my own ideas. Do you ever try to filter your ideas to a degree, or do you have a process that helps that?
Oh yeah, I've got shiny object big time. There's always different things where it's like, oh, it'd be fun to do this or that. Like I built a SaaS app in 2021 and launched that and learned, I'm not actually going to enjoy the tech stuff because I don't want to be a product manager. I don't want to sit on calls with accountants every single day talking about what this product should look like. I learned that wasn't for me. The very, very first thing I did in any sort of content was a weekly newsletter because I wanted to learn more about email marketing.
Okay.
So yeah, my initiatives are more focused on how do I get myself to be the version of me that I want to be 6 months down the road by learning this new thing, like by understanding podcasting better, that sort of thing. And, you try to align that with something meaningful that's going to help other people, but it's a selfish thing first and foremost. Like I'm never going to go down a path that's going to take me to being a version of myself that I don't want to be. And there is benefits to like, understanding podcasting puts making videos in perspective because when somebody comes to listen to a podcast, they're in a very different frame of mind, have a very different expectation than when they're sitting down to watch a video. Like if somebody's watching a video of mine on YouTube, I'm competing with Netflix, with Game of Thrones, with all of these other things, a very different level of attention than if somebody sits down and listens to a podcast. And like, what does that person expect to get from a podcast? So I think you learn from doing all of these different things, but like the guiding light is, what version of myself do I want to be 6 months from now? And I'm honestly very quick to spin up a project that will get me there. So like building SaaS app or something like that. But I'm also very quick to kill stuff. So like I've killed a lot of versions of things where like I'd gotten everything that I needed out of it and I moved on to the next thing.
Your link tree has one trunk, one set of roots. Your link tree is everything that's happening. It all builds to that one skeletal spine of your foundation, right? And as long as you know where that's going, then all the other stuff kind of feed from it and into it, and it's part of it.
Yeah, you kind of you find your lane and try to build the things around that like keep you personally growing in that direction. And the world around you sees all the stuff that you put out and you publish and all of that, but like they don't see like the purpose of doing all of that and the purpose of hiring a video editor and the purpose of hiring, doing this and that is to learn like what goes into like delegating and scaling this one specific thing. And it's like, I don't know how to build a creative team. Like, how do you build a team that can create creative that aligns with your vision of creative and your sense of humor? Like that's a thing I'd never had to do before. So like, people see the stuff that gets published, but like on the backside, it's more like, how do I like develop this new skill or this new kind of superpower that I didn't have before that will enable all the other things that I do?
Yeah. Building a creative team. We should get some creatives on here and talk about that. That's dope. I said, that's entirely different because you're trying to take something that's developed out of your brain, get it out of there, and other people to still execute and build on that too.
Yep.
That you trust the direction they're going in. Take
the best of your ideas and the best of their ideas and put it together into something cohesive. Like that's a very hard challenge.
Adam Lissagor, he would be one to, is that how to pronounce his name?
Yeah.
You mentioned him last time. He built a creative empire, a creative team.
Yep. Yeah. So how do you attract the like-minded people with a similar sense of humor and vision on, the things that they enjoy? So how do you attract those people in the first place? How do you build systems around ensuring that the stuff that you're producing aligns with people's expectation when they come to watch it? Like, it's one thing to do all of that yourself, but like the unlock in everything that we do, from running an accounting firm to anything else, is how do you leverage yourself? I tell my team, if you're moderately good at something, the best thing that you can do is make 10 more of yourself. That's
You said this on your first episode.
Yeah, that's
you said this.
A single person can only ever, lift so much. So how do you lean into like leverage through tech and leverage through mentorship and instilling what you're good at in other people?
That's what provides you with more freedom and time to do the things that you want to do. That's what happened with me with the firm. I had to get out of the firm so I could do. Well, no, I did the podcast in order to get out of the firm, and then it unlocked a lot of other things at that time.
Yeah, people don't talk about how that's a prerequisite to growth. So you can't grow until you figure out how to stop doing all the things that you do today. So if you feel like you're running in quicksand and all that, and I think a lot of times feel like they're mentally growing and learning from other people and all these other things, but not really making that progress, it's because you haven't figured out a way to stop doing all the stuff that you're doing right now. So like growth is much more nuts and bolts, I think, than people think about. But yeah, it's about how do I, so if I started out editing all of my own videos, growth for me looks like, cool, how can I pull somebody else to do this even better than I can so that I can focus on the next thing?
That's growth for me right now with the podcast, because I modeling what I did with the firm. I was doing everything, and I was doing everything with this podcast, and it's like I got to use my lessons learned from there and apply that to this now too. And yeah, it's providing that whole freedom. I mean, it's everybody talks about money and what money provides, and I think it's different for everybody in a lot of ways. But the two most common themes I find is freedom and time. Freedom and time, yeah. What about you? What does money provide for you?
Oftentimes it means growth. So it means I can pull in other expertise so that personally I can grow into the next thing. And it's kind of this compounding thing. Like, if somebody goes out and starts a podcast tomorrow and they say, I don't know how to find that person, or I don't have the money to hire the podcast editor and all these things. It's like, yeah, those are all like skills to learn. Like those are all challenges that you have to overcome that a bunch of other people have overcome. And on the other side of that is going to be another set of challenges, but they're like a more valuable set of challenges. So for me, like, I don't know, what money enables is compounding. If you're reinvesting back in yourself, like, the accountant community has been going for over 2 years and I haven't taken a dime out of that, because all that's going back into the stuff that gets me out of the things that I'm doing and reinvesting back in that thing and getting me to be at a place where I want to be. And that more valuable version of yourself, like, it's way easier to do all that stuff the next time. And it's easier to make money and all those things. So it's like money for me enables, freedom and all of that. But at a certain point, like, you're beyond a threshold of money where that really matters. So it's more about how can I enable like my next version of me and make other people better along the way. So pull in people that I enjoy and respect and do the same thing for them.
So it's like using the money to leverage. It's like debt, like leveraging debt, or leveraging, I'm going to apply this here so that I can do more, so that I can do this, so I can grow.
It's a real, like, I don't like how like inhuman of a way that is to frame it, because the most meaningful thing you can do, right, is create that opportunity for somebody else. So like, I try to like in my creative stuff, I try to find people that are kind of at an intersection of like going out and doing their own thing at the first time or something like that, where I can help enable that for them. So that conversation starts with like, where are you trying to get to? So like, I pull in an offshore editor and it's like very nuts and bolts. Do you work in the Adobe suite? He's like, no, I use this other program because I've just got hardware limitations. And I'm like, well, let's work to a spot where like you can get some dope hardware and use whatever system that you need. Like, how can I be the bridge to get you from where you are right now to that? So it is leverage, but it's like, it's how do you go out and especially when people are hard to find, how do you be so compelling for them that it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna work for you because you're genuinely going to be the best thing for them.
That goes back to like the so good they can't ignore you thing too, right? Like, part in a way too, like if you can be a guide for somebody else, then they can learn a lot more from that experience than they can just making money off of it too. There's
yeah, and oftentimes they see the value in that relationship, and it goes on longer than maybe you originally thought it would. We talked about legacy. Like, those are the small things you can do day to day too that like ensure that like you're actually going to make a meaningful impact on people. Because it's a really freaking big responsibility to be people's bosses. Like,
yes.
Most people's worst life, a lot of their really awful life experiences stem from who they work for. It could be a fantastic company, but it's like, if you're on a team of 4 and you got a terrible manager, like it doesn't get much worse than that. So like that weight of responsibility, I don't know. It's like all of these different things that you have to balance, right? Like, how do you align where I want to get with all these other people and where they also want to get? And the perfect version of that is something where everyone's trying to get somewhere, and all of those things for a time have an overlap where you're going to help everybody else. Like, it's all of these things, but that's kind of the challenge that I enjoy, I think.
Yeah. Well, you got to enjoy challenges to do what you're doing and to do as many things too. And you got to find happiness in all of it, and to be able to have that impact, and, like, focus on yourself first before you could even help anybody else. Put your mask on before you put your kids on, before you put your employees on. Like, the people that you want to have the impact for, you got to care for yourself first to be able to care for them.
Yep.
Of this.
I'll give you this one final tidbit. We were at ZeroCon and talking with somebody, and they were like, I'm really liking your podcast, but I really don't like the call-in radio show thing. I really think you got to drop that. And that was how the whole like narrative, like scripted, like world building stuff started, was this like call-in radio show inside a show. And Chad and I were like over the moon about that. We're like, we absolutely love this. How do we keep doubling down on that? Like, when we listen to the episode, that's the part we most look forward to. And that like, since then, that like took over the show. And so you go have this conversation with a person and they're like, I think it's pretty good. You should just cut this one part. And that's how it's always going to be in anything in life, in how your firm is positioned, in the podcast that you make, and anything. Like, there's going to be people who are like, I don't like this part of it. But there's also going to be people who are like rabid about it. And it's just like anything else. You make something that's going to work for everybody, it's not going to be compelling. At the end of the day, it's like, where's that thing taking you? Like, that's what matters the most. And is it something that you can be super proud of? Definitely. Like, I ask people for about, like, you absorb all of those things, but the final version is never going to make all of those people happy, right? It's never going to like lean into every one of those bits of advice. But at the end, like, is it something that like you think is super rad? Like, if you were on the other side of it, would you be pumped to listen to it? Like, that's like, I think, the guiding light for me.
I listen to my own raps. And
yeah,
I get goosebumps sometimes too. I'm like, did I really write that line? Like, and that's just for me. I did it for me. This is my deliberate practice, right? So I did one for Giraffe. They just bought ads, and I wrote them a rap, and that one came out in like 2 days. It like that was one of those that kind of wrote itself, and I'll eventually release it. Like, I've played it for people. I played it in the car during the ZeroCon. We were like driving in an Uber, and I played it for a few people, and it's like, that's why I do it, because I want something that I could be proud of, that I could look back and be on the other side of it and be like, I wish I wrote that. And so it like I told you, I wrote one for my daughter for her quinceañera.
Oh, wow.
This big party. I had nothing. I just paid the bill. I didn't really plan the party. I didn't do anything. But my one contribution was, and my gift to her was the song. And my wife cried. She cried. My parents didn't like some of the lyrics. They didn't like some of the stuff I shared. But I know they deep down, they like it too, right? Like, and it's like, I performed something for the first time in front of people. And that was hard for me. I still had my phone in front of me kind of reading the lyrics because I just wrote it a couple days before.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of reason, like that's the kind of thing that, like, I'm bridging all of these different parts of my life into one thing that I could enjoy doing. And it's not just about me or the attention or anything else, but it is, right? Like, part of all that is building to who you want to be and and what you've always wanted to do, and applying that to what you know. So,
I mean, especially if that's a way, like, especially if that's a way for you to communicate things that are otherwise hard to communicate.
Oh yeah, I said things in there that I'd never said to her or to anybody else, but I was able to say it in a song.
Yeah.
And then it sparked more conversation later too. So
That's cool.
Yeah. And I'm sure that, you're finding that too, in ways, your creative ways of saying things that you could not say in other ways or share, be more vulnerable in the creative world than you can be, because it's almost like I don't know if it's you're putting on this other persona or you feel like somebody else saying it, but I've heard that. I've heard other people say that in ways where they feel like it's a medium.
Yep. It goes down easier. Like it's all, you package it in a way where people are going to be more likely to be receptive to it.
Cool. Well, yeah. And enjoy your dinner and your time at the beach with the kids. This is what we do this all for, right? To be able to do that. Like,
yeah, super. Like, so much of this is like such a privileged conversation to even have. Like it really is.
Yeah. Well, I'm privileged to be able to chat with you again, and I thank you for coming on again. Until next time, until our next Stat Snacks, be good.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. This was fun.
Stay safe.
Grow marketing. It's Thursday. We gon' advertise and chat on Thursday. At Accounting High and Branding Talk is Thursday. And we gon' help you social post so you're in first place. It's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you into social studies, it's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you into social studies. Welcome back, Accounting High. Now it's time for social studies. We'll teach you new creative ways to market old product. Move beyond basics with graph and stats. Some stud you love. Position like Laura Lynn and you'll learn it's not all luck. Oh wait, now it all changed. SEO down, IG up. ICX, Meta, TikTok, hey LinkedIn, Roman V up. If you watch how they post, you'll see it's all authentic and genuine. Grow a following and don't get held back by perfection. Be intentional online, create content. Now that's hot. Strategy is key with social media and pods. Start slow, pick up platform, stick to it and go post. Make a plan to engage with client watering holes. Create a focused brand, be a lead online. It's a digital world with the best ROI. Now create your own ideal client persona. Let's go. Keyword Accounting High and get ready to blow. It's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you're into social studies, it's time for social studies, accounting, content hub, LinkedIn marketing, or X. So come join our social club. Is it Twitter? Is it X? Shit, now I can't keep up. So comment, follow, love. If you're into social studies. Follow this show, stay in the know. Thought lead online through networking. Like, share, repost, subscribe, YouTube, comment, engage, create, find your way.